In this presentation, I will discuss what standards-based grading is and why we believe in it at Hays High School. In a future video, I will describe in detail how the program works and how grades are assigned. My name is Jake Schaefer. I am one of the assistant principals at Hays, and I have a unique perspective on this program because not only am I an administrator here in the building, I also taught at Hays in this system, and I was able to help develop the program. Standards-based grading is different in some ways from traditional grading, but the change was well worth it when my students achieved at a higher level and felt more successful because of this grading philosophy. At Hays, our goal has always been to continuously improve what we do for our students. We began moving to standards-based grading as a response to a few problems that needed to be addressed. First, we had far too many failures in our core courses. We also needed to improve our OST scores across the board. We were making improvements, but we needed to raise the bar even higher for our students. Standards-based grading addressed those concerns and more. Later in the video, I will discuss some of the results we have seen in addressing them. But first, let's talk about what standards-based grading is. Standards-based grading begins with the belief that a student's grade should be based on what they know or are able to do. When we look at a grade, it should inform us about what skills that student has. This allows us to better understand how the student is doing in the class and what we can do in the classroom to make sure they leave the class with all of the skills that they need. Traditional grades are based on the percentage of points that a student earns throughout a grading term as opposed to the specific skills that they have. These grades give us some information, but at Hays we wanted to know more. When we give a student an 80% B-, as opposed to a 79% C+, that does not necessarily tell us what the student can do or not do. It doesn't necessarily tell us how to help the student achieve at a higher level either. The difference could be that one student did more homework than the others. It could be that one student did an extra credit assignment. It could be that one student got more points on the hardest test question, or that they made less small mistakes on the easy ones. With standards-based grading, we know exactly why a student gets the grade that they get and what they need to do to improve it. So, what exactly is standards-based grading, and why does it work better for our students? First, assessments and therefore grades are based on skills rather than points. Grades are assigned based on which skills students currently have. When we assess, whether it be with a test, quiz, paper, project, or other activity, we want to know and give feedback to students about what students are able to do and what they are still working on. This does not mean that assessments look any different from how they look in traditional grading classrooms. Students still take tests, they still take quizzes, they still write papers and do projects. We just do a better job of paying attention to what matters on those assessments. Second, learning is incremental. Traditional grades focus on what students cannot yet do. The teacher writes -15 at the top of the page and marks what students did wrong. In standards-based grading, we score students on the skills that they do have. We also start with the basics and work our way up as students gain new skills. Often students do not perform well on tests because the hardest question is worth the most points, and students are not yet ready to attempt the hardest question. In standards-based grading, we assess students on skills they are ready for. By the time they see the most difficult questions, they have the skills necessary to perform on them. Finally, with standards-based grading, the timeline for learning is flexible. Every student learns at a different pace, so we need to allow for that. Some students are ready to be assessed on higher level skills while others are mastering the basics. What matters most is that the students learn the skills, not when the students learn the skills. Since we have started the transition to standards-based grading, we've noticed some significant positive changes in student performance. We still have a lot to work on, but here are a few positive impacts. First, course failures have dropped dramatically. Part of the reason we moved to standards-based grading was that we were facing an overwhelming number of course failures, especially in 9th grade math and English courses. These failures have dropped dramatically. For example, there were over 100 failures in Algebra 1 before the standards-based grading program began. And last year, there was a total of 1 failure in Algebra 1. This is not because the course is easier. It's because students have the opportunity to learn incrementally at their own pace. Evidence of this is present in the OST scores, which have increased significantly since standards-based grading began. For example, the Algebra 1 scores have increased nearly 15% since 2021. Third, conversations have moved from discussions about what students need to turn in to get their grade up to conversations with students about what they need to be able to do. Grades can be updated immediately when students demonstrate the skills necessary for a certain grade. Fourth, students are not wasting time being assessed on skills that are far beyond or far beneath their ability. Students are assessed where they are, and that has made tests much more valid and reliable. Our assessments are carefully designed to test what they are meant to test. Thank you for viewing this presentation about why we chose to design a standards-based curriculum. For detailed information about how standards-based grading works at Hays High School, take a few minutes to watch the video entitled How Standards-Based Grading Works at Hays. If you have any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to contact me using the contact information on this slide. Thank you again.